So an Englishman, Irishman, and a Scotsman were driving through the desert. I'm sure you know where I'm going here with this one. All of a sudden, their car breaks down, okay? So they each decide to go for help and take something from the car to help them. The Englishman says, I'm gonna take a seat of the car, so if I get tired, I can sit down. Makes sense, right? The Scotsman says, I'm gonna take the radiator because there's water in it if I need a drink. Now, they both look at the Irishman who's sweeping the door of the car. So they ask, why are you taking the door? And the Irishman replies, because if it gets too hot, I can roll down the window. Smart Irishman. You want another one? Huh? Okay, another one. I heard about this man. He was the only Protestant at a large Catholic neighborhood. Every Friday during Lent, while his neighbors were eating cold fish, he was grilling a steak in his backyard. They couldn't stand the temptation and decided to try to convert him to becoming a Catholic. He finally agreed. A priest came over, sprinkled water on him, and said, you were born a Baptist, you were raised a Baptist, but now you're a Catholic. Okay? Now, the next year, on the first Friday of the Lent, they smelled the same smell. So they rushed to his house. He was in his backyard, sprinkling water over his steak, saying, you were born a cow, you were raised a cow, but now you're a fish. How I wish we could do that. Okay, whenever we listen to this kind of jokes, we've been hearing a lot of these jokes, right? What is the undertone purpose of these jokes? Okay, I think the undertone purpose of this joke is that a group of people, maybe based on a nationality or religion, trying to prove that they are better, smarter, stronger, holier than others. Am I correct? Right? And it's kind of in us. We see that in our families. That's why there's such a thing that is called sibling rivalry. Right? We see that also in school, among classmates, at the workplace, with our co-workers, in sports, even in religious communities, believe it or not, right? Even in religious communities, right? That's why we should not be surprised. In our gospel today, Jesus asked the disciples, what were you arguing about on the way? But they were silent. For on the way, they had argued with one another who was the greatest. We see the imperfection of the disciples, striving to be the greatest. But Jesus was using this opportunity to teach them what true greatness is. Okay? Now, don't get me wrong. The Lord wants us to be great. The Lord wants us to do great things. In John chapter 14, verse 12, it says, whoever believes in me will do works I have been doing, and they will do even greater things than these. Did Jesus do a lot of great things, right? Healing the sick, raising the dead. Jesus saying, for those who believe, we will do even greater things. But I think the Lord is teaching us the right motive. Jesus performed miracles, did a lot of great things, not so much about pride or selfish ambition or wanting to be praised to inflate his ego. No, Jesus is all about doing the will of God, right? And doing things out of love and for the glory of God and the salvation of souls. And that's why he said in our gospel today, teaching the disciples and all of us, because we share the same struggle with the disciples. He's teaching us what true greatness is. That's why he said, whoever wants to be first or the greatest must be last of all and servant of all. And then he used an illustration. He used the child to illustrate this teaching. Okay? And then he said, whoever welcomes one such a child in my name welcomes me, and whoever welcomes me welcomes not me, but the one who sent me. And as a small child, they have these virtues of childlike simplicity, humility, and faith. When Jesus said, when you welcome this child, he means we are trying to imitate the virtues of these small children. And when that happens, we are welcoming Jesus, our King, and his kingdom. In Matthew in chapter 19, verse 14, Jesus said, let the children come to me. Do not stop them, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these. So when we are living out these virtues of childlike humility, simplicity, and faith, the kingdom of heaven is in us, right? The kingdom of heaven is in us. And one saint, of course, I could mention several saints, but one saint that can really exemplify this is Saint Therese of the Child Jesus. And I'm rereading again her autobiography, The Story of the Soul. How many of you have read The Story of the Soul? It's so beautiful. The first time I read this was more than 25 years ago, when I was still in the Philippines and didn't even have the calling to the priesthood yet. So right now, I'm reading it again through the lens of being a priest. And it's really helping me a lot. So I really encourage you to read that. In her autobiography, she would mention her desire to become a great saint. Her desire is not born out of pride, selfish ambition, or ego. No, okay? She wrote there, God would not make me wish for something impossible, and so in spite of my littleness, I can aim at being a saint, okay? It is impossible for me to grow bigger, so I put up with myself as I am, with all my countless faults. You see here the humility of Saint Therese. But I will look for some means of going to heaven by a little way. Now, she continues writing. She wrote there, I was determined to find a lift to carry me to Jesus, for I was far too small to climb the steep stairs of perfection. Okay? She's comparing herself to like the greater saints like Saint Teresa of Avila and Saint John of the Cross. For her, she considers herself as a lesser saint. Okay? Now, she was looking for something in Scripture that would give her the answer. Finally, she found that answer in Mark chapter 10, verse 14, where it says, whoever is a little one, let him come to me. This is what Jesus said. Okay? And then finally she found the answer. She said, it is your arms, Jesus, which are the lift to carry me to heaven. And so there is no need for me to grow up. In fact, just the opposite, I must stay little, become less and less. Beautiful, right? You see here the humility. She acknowledges her imperfection. She acknowledges her weaknesses. But she also professes her great faith in God. What happened there is that she's totally dependent on God in everything. So we all could learn from her. And another thing that we could learn from her, she struggled from scrupulosity for several years. Finally, the Lord really healed her, and she started to become secure in her identity as a beloved daughter of God. Okay? And this is very important for all of us, because what will happen there is that if we're not secure in our identity as a beloved son and daughter of God, we will find our identity in what we do. So when we strive for greatness, we're looking for our identity in that. So when we think that we're greater than other people, we feel prideful, right? And when we see others greater than us, we become jealous or envious. Okay? That's why our identity must be in being the beloved sons and daughters of God. In our second reading today, it says there, where there is envy and selfish ambition, there will also be disorder and wickedness of every kind. I truly believe that the root cause of this is a crisis in identity. Okay? We see that in the disciples of Jesus, right? They were striving to be the greatest out of pride. And that's why Jesus did not just teach them the Our Father. Jesus also let them experience the Father's love. So that as they experience the Father's love, they become more secure in their identity as beloved sons. And it's the same for all of us. Jesus came not just to save us from sin and death. Jesus came to reveal the Father's heart to all of us. Okay? Because if we're not experiencing the Father's love, we're orphans. And we will find our identity in what we do. That's why when we're secure as beloved sons and daughters of God, we will not be envious. We will not be jealous. In fact, we will be happy for other people who might have like greater talents, greater success, or whatever, right? In fact, like we will be happy for them. And we will be content to be the least, the last, and the lowest. And it's hard for us to do that if we're not secure in our identity. We need to remember that we are loved by God for who we are, not for what we do. We do great things not to work for our identity, but to work from our identity. And whatever we do is a response. It's a response to God's love for us. That's why we're called to do things out of love, and also all for the glory of God. Saint Therese wrote this, remember that nothing small in the eyes of God. Do all that you do with love. Okay? So let's imitate her desire to be a great saint, because all of us can become great saints. Even in our sinfulness, there's a potential for us to become a great saint. Let's imitate her childlike simplicity, humility, and faith. And also, my prayer is that all of us will experience the Father's love so that we will grow in our identity as beloved sons and daughters. So as she said, do all that you do with love. So even if it is a small thing, cooking, doing laundry, cleaning the house, whatever small thing, when we do it out of love, it is a great thing in the eyes of God. That's why all of us are capable of doing great things. Now, I'd like to invite you to a training session. A lot of people out there, they don't know that they have a father. A lot of people out there, they're feeling that they're orphans. They don't know that they are beloved sons and daughters of God. Okay? That's why we're providing this training parishioners on how to bring Jesus to our neighbors, to those who are living in our parish boundary. Okay? We will be teaching you 2 approaches on how to share the gospel or the good news to them. Now, I know a lot of people are not used to this. A lot of people are scared. We're just going to do some baby steps. Okay? We're going to train you. We're going to pair you up with somebody who has more experience, and then we're just going to practice. I think that's the only way to overcome fear, right? Because, as I've said, people need to hear the good news that they have a Father, a loving Father, a good Father, and they are the beloved sons and daughters of God. So if the Lord is touching you, if the Lord is inspiring you to attend this session, there's a QR code there. You could take a picture of it. It's on October 5 from 9 to 10:30. Okay, it's going to be at the newly renovated Salt Cellar Room. So you're going to be the first to see how beautiful it is, that Salt Cellar Room. So I really encourage you, okay?